Hello, everybody. Greetings and blessings. My name is David, aka the Patriot Pilgrim. A few days ago, a group of people met at a friend's house to have a prayer, a mass, and a little celebration in honor of Divine Mercy. So we did this a couple days before Divine Mercy Sunday, and there were a lot of people that went to confession, and we got quite a ways off schedule, so the mass started about an hour and a half late, and I was supposed to give a talk after mass. So I decided to just talk about the basics of mercy and leave out my personal testimony, maybe cut the talk in half that way, because we were running so late. We needed to get on with the rest of the day, which included a meal and fellowship, and it was getting late. So what I'll do is I'll post right now on this video the talk I gave, and when that's over I will share with you the testimony that I wasn't able to share during the talk that day. Okay, so here's the video. Okay, if you were to look at the 5th chapter of the Gospel of Matthew, do you know what that's called? Chapter 5 of Matthew? That's known as the Sermon on the Mount. Okay, the Sermon on the Mount. And in chapter 5, or actually at the beginning of that, we have the Beatitudes. Okay? The 5th Beatitude is this: Blessed are the merciful, for they shall be shown mercy. So two questions are coming up. And one is, what is mercy? And another one, very important, is, what is not mercy? Okay? So mercy is compassion or forgiveness shown towards someone who is within one's power to punish or harm. So you have a legal, even a moral right to punish someone, but you decide not to because you show mercy. But there's much more than that, okay? The word mercy derives from a medieval Latin word which means to pay the price. So showing mercy means you are paying the price. Think about it like this. We all are saved because Jesus paid the price. That was his mercy. It wasn't free. So mercy is not anything that's free. Okay, it always should involve a sacrifice. And the idea of making a sacrifice, again, leads me into my next part, which is to talk about what mercy is not. First of all, mercy is not simply giving someone a break, cutting them from slack. That's not mercy, okay? Consider like the liberal judges who release criminals, sometimes dangerous criminals, in the public without having them even go to trial. Well, first of all, where's the sacrifice? And the answer is the judge doesn't they actually make life easier for themselves. There's no sacrifice. And second of all, where's the mercy for the innocent people who may be hurt? So just simply cutting someone some slack or not holding them accountable for the behavior is not mercy. Okay? For example, when I was teaching, I could give a kid detention for some inappropriate behavior. And then they'd say, well, be merciful, cut me some slack. No mercy, no mercy. Look, the teachers don't hold those kids accountable when they're 12 years old, and they just get used to doing whatever they want and breaking rules. By the time they're in their 20s, they can spend years in jail rather than maybe an afternoon detention. So where's the mercy here? Okay, mercy is, in fact, that's my next comment about mercy. Mercy is not the opposite of justice. It's not the opposite. People think they're opposites. That's an easy one to prove, okay? Because two characteristics of God are mercy and justice. God is all good, so how can these two things be opposite? They're both good. And I think mercy may be an extension of, let's say, the justice. In fact, Abraham Lincoln once said, mercy bears greater fruit than justice. And if you read chapter 2 of the letter of St. James, it says mercy triumphs over justice. Now this is 3 questions, kind of off-the-wall questions for you, okay? The first one's a question, the next one yes or no. The first question, kind of off the wall, what was the first word that they spoke to the Earth from the moon and the supposed moon landing? The very first word that came back in communication. We should all know this, especially where we live. No? The very first word, believe it or not, was Houston. Houston. They said, Houston, we have a problem. Okay, Houston, we have a problem. So the next question is, how many of you want to follow the commands of Jesus and will follow the commands of Jesus? Will you follow what Jesus wants you to do? Yes or no? Raise your hand if it's yes. Okay, come on, participate here. Okay, now the third question is, how many of you are capable of being perfect? No, we're not, are we? But then let's look at, just go back to the Gospel of Matthew and go a little further down in that same chapter, the Sermon on the Mount, gets past the Beatitudes, and he says this, okay? He says, you have heard it said that love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only the people who get along with you, what are you doing more than others? That not even pagans do that. Listen to this. Be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Okay, so Houston, we have a problem. Because Jesus just said, be perfect, and yet we agree that we can't be perfect, but we want to do what Jesus said. And it looks like it's kind of like a no way to do that type of thing. And how we can solve this problem. If you look at the Gospel of St. Luke, he also has his version of the Sermon on the Mount in chapter 6, okay? And instead of the Beatitudes, see, in Matthew they have the Beatitudes, blessed are they, blessed are they, blessed, but St. Luke has what's called the blessings and woes, blesseds and woes. He has the first part, blessed are, then he has the part, woe to, and he talks about the Beatitudes, but that's, go further down and look at the same passage I just read to you, and what does St. Luke tell us? Again, he says, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. If you love those who love you, what credit is to you? Even the sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who are good to you, what credit is that? Even sinners is that. And if you lend to those from whom you are expected repayment, what credit is that? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything in return. Then your reward will be great, and you will be called children of the Most High. And his final sentence says, be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. And so you try to connect the dots here. These are corresponding readings of the same event. One says, be perfect, and the other says, be merciful. And what you have to think about is like this. We may not be capable of being perfect, but the closest thing we can come to being perfect in the way God is perfect is to show mercy, okay? And so how might you apply this to your life? Well, we live in a world where, like, maybe we're ridiculed for being Christian, for our other beliefs, for our political beliefs. And a lot of times people want to label us and tell us, and you know, we try to express our beliefs, and I've been cursed out and unfriended and stuff by people just because I stand up for what I believe in. And, you know, we're thinking, you know, how do you deal with this situation? And what do you do if the truth comes out and these people see the truth, okay? Well, what is our role? Because we're Christians, because we believe in Jesus. What is our role? So, are we supposed to get angry at these people and yell at them and hate them? Jesus doesn't say that. And what if the truth comes out and we see that maybe we were on the right track and they were wrong after they mocked and ridiculed us? Is our role to say, see, I told you so, see, I was right. Better apologize now. No. What is our role to deal with the people that are on the side that we might say are the wrong side? What's our role? 2 words. Be merciful. That's the 2 words you do. You are to be merciful, and in that case you will be following the command of Jesus, and you'll be as close as you can. If your goal is to be like God, then be merciful, and that'll get you there faster than anything. In fact, I have this last quote from someone named Dana Arcuri. It says, our job on earth isn't to criticize, reject, or judge. Our job is to offer a helping hand, compassion, and mercy. We are to do unto others as we hope they would do unto us.
I retired from teaching in June of 2013. And then I spent that next school year just doing a lot of this and that, sometimes I'd go visit people in a nursing home or pray with families. Maybe I would go to Mass an extra time every day. And just really, though, I didn't have a lot of structure to my life. And my wife was still working, so I was like all these days free. So the next year, I decided to be a volunteer at the school where my wife works. And during that first semester in the fall of 2014, as it came to an end and final exam week came around, there were 2 students there that had failed to turn in an assignment. Then the final exams had been graded, and looking at all of their grades for the whole semester, they were going to fail by a little bit. And had they turned in that assignment, even a mediocre grade, they would have pulled through. So, being that I was volunteering and not full of all the overload of work that teachers have, I had the time to go and look up these 2 students' schedules. I talked to them privately and said, look, bring the work in for a late grade. It'll save you from failing the semester, and showed them what to do and everything. And the next day, they still didn't have it. And so I went through and I called their parents on the phone, and I said, this is what needs to be done, and you can meet me early in the morning, the next morning, and bring your child and the assignment back so that we can get the assignment in before the grades are due, because they really need to do this or they'll fail the semester, lose their credit. And finally it worked, and the parents brought the students in their work in that next morning, and the work was graded, a late grade, but they passed the semester. So I was reflecting on this later, and this made me kind of think of my whole teaching career, because this situation, I have to ask myself, how far do you go to save a student, and when do you let the student face the consequences of their own behavior? Or in other words, was it a mistake to go all out and do all this to get them to bring the work? Should I have just let them fail and let them learn a lesson the hard way? But I was never good at letting people learn a lesson the hard way. Always reached out, made the extra effort, and always wondered if that was a mistake, and kind of felt a little bit ashamed that I wasn't like stricter, with the kids. When I was teaching in my own teaching career, I'd get people turning in quizzes sometimes, which we would take the quiz right at the end of class, and they'd turn in the quiz, and they wouldn't do the back of the sheet. And you realize that as time was running out, they worked the front of the sheet and turned it in thinking they were done without ever turning the page over. And these were good kids, and they weren't trying to get by with anything, or they weren't lazy. They just didn't even realize there was a work written on the back of the sheet of the paper. And I would look up their schedules during my lunch or my free period and go find these kids and track them down. Oh, did you know you didn't do the back of the paper? And they'd always be like, oh my God, I didn't even know there was, what can I do? What can I do? And I would tell them, okay, well, I'll let you do the back of the sheet, come in at lunch or come in tomorrow morning before school. And I'd let them do that. And teachers would get after me. It's like, what's wrong with you? You're wasting your time running around for these kids. Just mark it all wrong and let them learn the hard way. Next time they'll turn their paper over. And I couldn't really disagree with that. I mean, it's true. And yet something in me just never had it, had it in me to, just get tough and let them learn the hard way. I would always reach out to help the kids as much as I could with kids who were having a hard time, kids who might make mistakes. I just went overboard. So I was reflecting on this and praying about this, and I was thinking, is this a deficiency that I have? And just wondering, maybe somewhere I was wrong here. And I had God spoke into my heart, and I've had this happen on numerous occasions. I've heard this. It's not like a voice. It's hard to explain, but I've written a whole book about it. These incidents where this happens to me, and I get these little messages. And, God said to me, when you show mercy, you're most like God. And I think, well, okay. When I show mercy, I'm most like God. And that felt comforting to me, because maybe I wasn't wrong in trying to go all out the way I was. And then God added another little message, which was a little bit of a problem. He said, now I want you to write a chapter in your book about mercy. It's like, okay. So this was in mid-December. So Christmas comes and goes, and I really haven't started writing the chapter. And January comes, and we're cruising through January, and in the back of my mind, it's like, I got to write a chapter, but I'm not really getting down to it. And we go to one Saturday morning, I read my readings in the morning, the readings in the Magnificat little magazine, and they were focusing on mercy. And I'm getting this little feeling in my heart, you're supposed to write a chapter about mercy, why aren't you getting going, But the next morning I went to church, and there was a visiting priest there, and after Mass, this priest gave a talk about mercy. And I actually felt this little message come into my heart. It's like, David, when you starting your chapter? Okay, well, that afternoon, my wife and I went to an opera, La Clemencia di Tito, which means the mercy of Titus. And it's about a ruler who shows incredible mercy beyond all expectations. And so we watched this, and I'm amazed at all this merciful acts this guy does. And I'm walking out of the theater after the opera with my wife, and in my mind it's like, you better start that chapter on mercy. So finally, God gave me all these reminders, and I said, okay, I'll start the chapter on mercy. And I did, and I got going. It didn't take me long to write it, and I did it through February. I had it done. And it just shortly right after that the church announcement came out that they were going to have an extraordinary year of mercy. So right after I finally finished my chapter on mercy, I see this announcement that church is having an extraordinary year of mercy, which confirmed for me that maybe God was pleased with what I'd done. Anyway, God wanted me to know that when a person shows mercy, that's how they're most like God. Okay, thank you for viewing my video. Thank you. You can, like my video, share my video. If you want, you can leave a comment. Just remember to be merciful, okay? God bless all of you. Bye-bye.